Hello, can you guys hear me? All right, let's begin. Let's jump right into this. All right, so another hangout session, just going to be streaming yet again. Gonna do another stylized type drawing, so feel free to hang out and talk and chat. I know there's a delay too, so you gotta be mindful of that. Hope everyone is having a good or had a good weekend. Also, hope nobody gets tricked too much from all the April Fool's stuff. I actually haven't seen too much, at least not that I am aware of, or not like obvious ones. What is up, Holden and Bruce? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna try to do some more stylized stuff. Trying to get some of that practice in. What is up, Mr. Key or Mike? Mike Design? Is that what that's supposed to abbreviate to? Good to see you indeed, friends. Have you seen the Ross Trans April Fools? No. Was it the one where he was naked? I saw that photo. And I was like, what the? But now that you said that, I think that makes sense. Yeah, let me see if I can kind of do something a little bit different. Hola, Goma. How long have you been drawing, Anthony? And how long in digital? I've been drawing for probably a good 10 to 12 years, maybe. And it was digital too when I started to really take it seriously. Now, I've always kind of drawn when I was a kid, but nothing like serious. It was just like, just whatever. But no, I've taken drawing seriously in the last decade. Yeah, but I haven't been doing it for too long. Yeah. Again, I'm just trying to get these streams in just to hang out, chat, while I get some of my practice that I would normally do. There's other things that I'm practicing, but those are still kind of behind closed doors. A lot of the stuff that I've been learning, I know is just very boring. And so it's like, I know it's just not as interesting to watch somebody learn that kind of stuff. But, I have been thinking about doing something where I just kind of do the things that I'm trying to learn and people can just hang out. But I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. Oopsies. Yeah, it was. Yo, good night, Anthony. Greetings from Grenada, West Indies. Good night to you, too, my friend. I'm always working on some art when you are on. That's why I lurk and listen for the knowledge bombs in the background. But always a good time. It is a good time, Marcus Butler. Your work is awesome, and your 5-minute quick digitals are crazy good. Thank you. Oh yeah, it has been about 5 minutes. This is a little bit more stylized, so it's not as impressive, I guess. Nothing like the kind of stuff that you guys are used to seeing me do. Yeah, but I'm trying to find like a style in which I can do kind of a comic bookish style, as well as something that I can kind of like maintain. And so, oh, my fam's in the background talking. Not sure what's going on. I might have to go tell them not to be too loud. But it's it's the middle of the day, spring break for many of my family, so it's a little bit harder. And I have some time. I kind of finished some freelance bits, so now I'm just kind of like sitting here trying to do the stream a little bit. After this, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna actually practice some other things. Some things I want to practice are like programming and stuff. And unfortunately, like practicing like programming is going to be way more, way more challenging to like have a stream, because it's like I can't really talk while I'm programming or doing some of the stuff. I might be able to. It might be fun still if I get better at it. But at the moment, it's like a lot of it still like I don't know a lot. And so whenever I'm learning something new, I definitely try to put a lot of time and focus, treat it as something that I have a lot of value in. And I feel like a lot of people practice, they tend to like kind of mix and match their time and their effort. You know? Your work is awesome, and oh, I already read that. Hey man, greetings from Hungary. What's up? What's up, Hungary? Yo. Yeah, let me try to do something like this. Let me put some more values up in this. See what we got going here. I should probably try to maybe keep this a little bit more believable. So maybe what I can do here, it is kind of a fascinating style, like the eyes being a little further apart. It's like, it's not correct, but it's like I kind of want to keep it this way. But maybe if I can like get in here and add like the arm. Yeah, maybe he's like, okay, let me draw this in here. So maybe he's like kind of doing this, and then he's going like that, and then maybe, or actually maybe I can have his arm coming across. You know what? I have no idea. So instead of guessing, why don't I just like redraw it? Yeah, because sometimes whenever someone will do this design, like they'll just kind of go in and they'll just like stick with whatever mistakes that they started with. I've learned that you shouldn't. Like as soon as you feel like you have made a mistake and you can kind of see that you've made one, it's probably good to kind of like go back and maybe like re-elaborate how you want to handle that mistake. Yeah, this is more inclined of what I was thinking. Alrighty. But again, I'm going to try to do like a 15-20 minute hangout. So if you have any kind of questions you'd like for me to answer, I'll try to answer them during the intermission times of me not talking. After getting my iPad Pro, oh, what's up, Jens? I missed that part. Greetings from Morocco too. What's up, gents? Good to see you, man. Love what you're working on. It's pretty cool. Hope all is well. What was I going to go to? Oh yeah. So after getting my iPad Pro and Apple Pencil 2, I found myself drawing more often. Great. It is a lot easier to start. Sometimes a blank piece of paper can be intimidating and stop or delay your starting. Yeah, sorry. I think the way you wrote that was wrong. How Fayam, what's up? Finally caught you, sucker. Nicholas. Yeah, back to Bruce's thing of like drawing more often. That's great. Yeah, I feel that, you know, having the iPad is a really good tool because it allows you to do very much what you just said. It allows you to work whenever you normally wouldn't be working, right? Because sometimes, you know, having like being a person who works on a PC, like it's really challenging to kind of like get into it if you don't have like a PC with you at all times, especially if you do like a lot of digital drawing like I do. You know, but I also still like to do good old sketchbooks. But sometimes, like I said, people don't have these things, and so yeah, I agree. Like, you know, having a sketchbook that's digital, like the iPad, is super valuable. And yeah, I find myself I was drawing more too from having it. One thing I also start doing more is that I have like a sketchbook that I carry around, and I sketch a lot more because of the sketchbook. I also agree that having a sketchbook is super valuable for the very same reasons. You should just always have a reason to be drawing. I've been drawing a lot. I've been doing it so I can get better at environments, and it's been working out. I haven't done an environment for you guys, but I will soon. So it should be great. Happy to see you streaming again, by the way. Yeah, absolutely. Do you like to use Procreate? Oh, what brushes do I like to use on Procreate? Just like the standard brushes. There's a couple brushes that I've kind of customized, but it's essentially the same brushes that they have there. I don't really try to use too many crazy brushes. I focus a lot of my time, as you probably guys know, on just the merits of my skill, because that pays in dividends versus just straight up, what you call it, straight up, you know, making crazy like tools work for you. I like to just rely on a lot of my skill, and sometimes people don't like to do that. Sometimes people like want the tool to do so much for them, but you got to realize that tools will constantly change and evolve, and if you don't change and evolve with the tools, then you're gonna be left behind. Like there's gonna be some kid picking up these newer tools, doing cooler things. Like I saw like in Clip Studio Paint that you can like get like the color painted for you. Like my friend was showing me that. Like you just do like a line drawing, and then like it just figures it out, like how it would go about coloring your painting. It's pretty fascinating. But that's the kind of stuff that's going to be new, and like people are going to probably be like, oh, back when I used to do work, I'd have to color everything, you know. But now it's like, no, this thing can do it for you, right? And so tools like this will only get easier and easier and easier. And I feel like when people don't recognize this, they get left behind, and then they don't know why. It's just because, you know, whatever skills that you invested in time into, I get it. You want to like have that still have value, but at the same time, like if there's better tools for people to create, you know, different kinds of art, you're gonna have to catch up to that. I do think there's still going to be a need for like people who have like just raw skill. You know, I think that's still always going to have value. I just don't know. Like what those will be and who's going to be into it, because I'm just not into those at the moment. But I definitely am into stuff like like skill-based stuff. Well, like I've been saying, I'm all about them skills. And so if you got any other questions or stuff, you guys can go for it. Right now I'm kind of like all scatterbrained because I'm like trying to actually learn something from this painting that I'm doing. Yeah, normally when I study, I don't say anything. I just stay super quiet. and I just like focus. Yeah, let me see what's up. I still do sketchbook too and go back and forth. I do find myself always, or I also find myself tapping 2 fingers on my regular sheet of paper to undo. Yeah, I've done that. Uh, but yeah, I still use a sketchbook. Yeah, I've done that a couple times, and that's the funny thing because I don't have those feelings when before when I was whenever I was using just regular Photoshop. I didn't have the feeling of like undoing. But then like when I when I started using Procreate, I have had that feeling happen, and it's really funny. Like I actually would just feel like I have to undo, and it's really funny that I would do that. All right, I think I'm going to call it quits pretty soon. Reaching that, we definitely reached the 15-minute mark. Maybe later to today, if not today, definitely sometime tomorrow. I'll do like a much longer stream, and I'll stick to my traditional schedules of painting, the kind of stuff that you guys are used to me painting. But like I said, I'm on learning mode right now. I'm learning a lot of different stuff. A lot of it's programming, a lot of it's artistically based. I'm trying to develop my own projects, so I need to like learn how to do these things, and so it's all fun. But definitely going to kind of do another video where I just paint something that you guys are used to me painting. I don't think that you guys mind what I'm painting now. I think you guys still enjoy it, but I do feel responsible to do more streams, and obviously, just do things that I think a lot of you guys would love to learn more about. Obviously, I have my tutorials, I have my mentorships. The latest one is just sold out. I need to open up a next month's one, but I'm going to do another series of tutorials soon, probably starting at the mid of this week, and just keep on trucking. But with that being said, happy April Fool's Day, y'all. I'm curious what your thoughts is on concept artists that might be doing pin-up stuff on the side. Could they be blacklisted because they dabble in that field of art? I don't see why they would. Like doing more like sexualized characters. I mean, there's a group of people that definitely don't like that, but I mean, I'm a big fan of do what you like to do. I'm not a big fan of telling people what they should be doing. And I'm pretty well known and well versed in the community, so there are people that are trying to find ways to like make sure that people don't do that kind of stuff, and I don't agree with it. But it definitely does not hold you back. I don't think it does. And if it does, yeah, like those people are wrong. Yeah, the only things that I can think of that would really hold you back would be if you're just a jerk. Like I know like some people who would do like the more like sexualized stuff, and people would come after them, and their responses were very, not ideal, if you know what I mean. Where other people were like, look man, this is like what I like to do, I'm not trying to mess anybody up, and it's a lot more respectable. Where others, like I said, are like, oh, you don't like it, and then they'll just like kind of double down and go even more full throttle to make a point. I think there's always a better way to handle stuff like this. But like I said, I'm in the camp of do what you like to do. Don't let other people tell you what to do, especially, and this should be obvious, especially and obviously if it's not hurting anybody. Like if you're doing artwork that's just for you and you really enjoy it, and maybe it is super sexualized in some ways. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but just some people get offended very easily. I have very close friends who do this type of stuff, and they personally aren't the kind of people that you would imagine being these like super like weird and evil people. They just seem like regular people that just like to draw people pretty good. You know what I mean? So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Do what you like. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this. Do you know highly successful 22, 23 yo boys? What? 23-year-old boys? Do you know highly successful 22, 23-year-old boys? I don't know. Hey, Anthony, about your environment mentorship. Oh, yeah, Kalen's out of business, so you just got to wait for him to get back in it. I've never seen one of your environments. How do I know it's good? Oh, I don't teach the environment class, so that's the answer to that. When I did have the environment class, it was someone else's was teaching it. They were an environment artist. Have you ever thought about using Blender grease pencil for landscapes? I have thought about this. When studying, I tend to find myself painting the same subject for hours. Hold on my phone. All right, got it. When I tend to find myself painting the same subject for hours, I'm starting to realize that it might be a waste of time for the goals I have. Do you recommend time boxing when painting? I mean, it seems like you've already answered your own question, right? Like if you feel like you're drawing something over and over and it's actually not what you like, if your goals are to do like, I don't know, muscular men, right, and you're just drawing scantily dressed women, then you might be missing the mark, right? Or if you're like trying to be a character designer and you just keep drawing like environments, again, I think you might be missing the mark, you know? So I'm a big fan of like staying focused on the very thing that you want to try to get good at. And yes, of course, it may feel like a waste of time, but only if it is, like only if you genuinely are not aiming to do it, then it could be a time waste. But if you are just trying to get good in general, then you know it's never that bad of a waste of time because you're always learning. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed the painting. I enjoyed doing it. Now I'm going to get back to my other studies and talk to you guys in the next stream. Most likely tomorrow sometime. See ya.